Have you ever been around someone who subtly disrespects you without even raising their voice? It's not always yelling or name-calling. Sometimes it's a quiet smirk, a dismissive glance, or being interrupted so many times that you just stop talking altogether. And as we grow older, this kind of treatment can feel even more invisible, as if people expect us to simply smile, nod, and let it slide. But deep down, that silence can chip away at your dignity. And the truth is, no one, at any age, should ever be treated like they don't matter. In this video, we'll walk through 5 simple yet powerful ways to handle people who don't respect you. Whether it's a family member, a neighbor, or someone you've known for decades, these strategies will help you protect your peace and rebuild your confidence without shouting, blaming, or losing your cool. Stay with us until the very end, because you'll not only discover how to deal with disrespect in the moment, but also how to develop a quiet, unshakable presence that naturally commands respect before you even say a word. These aren't quick tricks or empty advice. They're lifelong habits that can help you stand tall in every room you enter, no matter who's there. If you've ever walked away from a conversation feeling smaller than you are, if you've second-guessed yourself after someone's cutting remark, or if you've tolerated poor treatment just to avoid conflict, this is for you. You are not too sensitive, you're not imagining things, and you are definitely not powerless. Let's talk about how to take your power back, one respectful step at a time. Number 1. A boundary that holds firm. One of the most important things you can do when someone doesn't respect you is to set a boundary and actually keep it. It's not enough to just say you have limits. Those limits need to be clear, consistent, and non-negotiable. Once you set a boundary, it's not just something you enforce when it's convenient. It's something you uphold every single time. The truth is, people will test limits. Often, they don't even realize they're doing it, but they notice what you tolerate. And if you allow something once, even if it makes you uncomfortable, they'll quietly file it away as acceptable behavior the next time. A firm boundary doesn't require you to raise your voice or deliver a long-winded explanation. It can be as simple and direct as saying, "I don't accept being spoken to that way," or "I need you to stop interrupting me when I'm talking." Then, you follow through. If the behavior continues, you calmly step away, change the subject, or limit future conversations. There's no need to argue, no need for their approval. What matters most is your consistency. One of the most common mistakes, especially among those of us taught to be endlessly polite, something that often deepens with age, is over-explaining. We try to soften the message, cushion it with kindness, and avoid hurting anyone's feelings. But in doing so, we leave room for our words to be ignored. When you deliver your boundary clearly, calmly, and consistently, people are forced to recognize that you won't bend simply to make them comfortable. That's when true respect begins to grow, not from fear, but from clarity. I once knew a woman named Carol, 74 years old, a grandmother of 7, and the warm heart behind every family gathering. She was the kind of person who'd make sure everyone had a plate of food before she even sat down. But Carol had one line nobody crossed: no sarcasm at the dinner table. Years ago, when a few relatives made mocking jokes, thinking it was harmless fun, Carol looked up, smiled, and simply said, "Not here." And that was it. It never happened again. She didn't raise her voice or argue. She simply set the tone. By holding that line with quiet strength, she created a space where everyone knew respect was expected. Boundaries aren't about pushing people away. They're about teaching them how to treat you. And when you uphold them with consistency, you stop waiting for respect to appear. You start attracting it naturally. Number 2, a calm response under pressure. When someone disrespects you, whether it's through a sharp remark, a condescending tone, or simply brushing you aside, your first instinct might be to, maybe in that moment you feel your heart start to race. Maybe your voice tightens without you even realizing it. Maybe there's that sudden wave of frustration building in your chest. That's natural, you're human. But here's the truth. The most powerful thing you can do in that exact moment isn't to push back or match their tone. It's to stay calm. Why? Because disrespect often thrives on reaction. People who talk down to others are usually seeking one of two things: dominance or drama. If you snap, they win the dominance game. If you over-explain, they dismiss you entirely. But when you hold steady, when you meet their heat with quiet control, you completely shift the dynamic. In that stillness, you keep your power. You silently communicate that you're not easily rattled, that you won't be pulled into their storm. This doesn't mean you have to pretend their words didn't sting. It simply means you take a breath, you pause, and you give yourself that half second for the initial emotion to pass. Only then do you choose your response. Not from anger, not from fear, but from a place of strength. And here's the thing: true strength isn't loud or flashy, it's grounded. It might be as simple as saying, "I don't appreciate that comment," or "That's not acceptable to me." Then you stop. You let the silence do the heavy lifting. You don't rush to fill the space. You don't try to persuade them. You just own your presence. I once knew a man named Leonard, 78 years old, the quiet type with kind eyes. At a community meeting, a younger member tried to cut him off mid-sentence. Not once, but twice. Leonard didn't raise his voice. He didn't argue. He simply stopped speaking, looked the man directly in the eye, and said, "I'll continue when you're ready to listen." Then he waited. Slowly, the entire room shifted. Leonard didn't demand respect. He embodied it. That's the real power of calm. It's not about accepting poor treatment. It's about refusing to let someone else's behavior pull you out of your center. Over time, people learn they can't control you by disrespecting you. You're rooted, you're steady, and that's deeply unsettling to anyone who relies on chaos to maintain control. So the next time someone tries to push your buttons, let them discover there are no buttons to push. That is real power. If you've been finding these insights valuable so far, leave a comment with the number 2 below so I know you're still here and following along. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I truly recommend hitting that subscribe button and turning on the bell. That way, you won't miss any future videos that can help you protect your peace, strengthen your confidence, and live life on your own terms. Your support is what allows us to keep creating content that informs, inspires, and genuinely makes a difference. Now, let's move into the next point: what I call a distance that speaks for itself. Sometimes the most respectful thing you can do for yourself is not to say something at all, but to take a deliberate step back. When someone repeatedly shows you they don't respect you, no matter how many times you've calmly spoken up or set clear boundaries, the answer isn't to try harder to win them over, it's to quietly pull away. And this isn't about anger or resentment, it's about clarity. Because here's a truth many people overlook: you do not have to keep offering your time, your presence, or your energy to someone who continues to take it for granted. It doesn't matter if they've been in your life for decades, if they're family, or if they're an old friend. History doesn't entitle anyone to unlimited access to you. Respect is not something you chase, it's something you require. And when it's not given, you make adjustments. That adjustment could be as simple as shortening conversations, visiting less often, taking longer to respond to messages, or even allowing the relationship to naturally drift into the background. You don't have to make a big announcement about it. You just shift your energy. You spend more of your time with people who lift you up and less with those who pull you down. The beauty of this approach is that it teaches others something without you needing to say a single word. Your absence says, "I noticed. I value myself enough to step away, and I don't need to explain that to you." I once met a woman named Shirley, 69 years old, who had spent every holiday with her cousin's family. But year after year, she was met with subtle digs, comments about her choices, her appearance, even the way she raised her children. For a long time, she smiled through it. Then one year, she simply stopped. She didn't argue. She didn't explain. She just made other plans. And that year, for the first time in a long time, she felt genuine peace. Her absence spoke louder than any confrontation could. Some relatives eventually reached out, not to argue, but to reconnect, and with noticeably more respect. Not everyone will change, but some will. And the ones who don't? You'll have already created the distance that protects your well-being. The truth is, those who refuse to respect you were never truly your people to begin with. Protecting your energy isn't selfish, it's responsible. As the years go by, your time becomes more precious, your peace becomes more valuable, and the circle of people you allow close to you should reflect that. Not because you think you're above anyone, but because you've finally learned your worth, and you're no longer willing to compromise it. That brings us to another powerful tool, a statement that is brief and direct. When someone disrespects you, one of the easiest traps to fall into is over-explaining. You start justifying why you feel the way you do, giving background details, and trying to help them understand why their words or actions weren't okay. While that might come from a place of wanting to clear the air, it often has the opposite effect. It hands them control of the conversation. It gives them the opportunity to twist your words, shift the blame, or drag the discussion into a never-ending loop. And worst of all, it signals that you are, in some way, asking for their permission to be respected. But here's the reality. You don't need permission to be treated with dignity. You don't need to defend your worth like it's up for debate. All you need to do is make it clear where you stand, and the most effective way to do that is with short, confident statements that leave no room for misunderstanding. Phrases like, "I'm not okay with that," or "that doesn't work for me," or "let's talk when we can both be respectful," are simple, but they are powerful. They don't invite debate. They don't spiral into arguments. They draw a firm line in the sand, and they make it clear you're not willing to cross it just to keep the peace. When you respond with short, direct clarity, you keep the focus where it belongs, on the behavior, not your worth. You sidestep the trap of defending yourself to someone who has no real interest in listening. I once knew a man named Harold, 82 years old, who had spent years trying to keep the peace in a complicated friendship. Every time this friend made a cutting remark or crossed a boundary, Harold would respond with a long, careful explanation, hoping to appeal to his friend's sense of decency. But nothing ever changed. Then one day, Harold simply looked at him and said, "You're not talking to me that way anymore," and walked away. That friendship ended not long after, but Harold told me he felt more respected in that moment than he had in the past 20 years. It's not about being cold, it's about being clear. And when you speak with clarity, people quickly learn you're not someone who can be pushed around, ignored, or worn down. You don't need to argue about your worth. You already know it. And you're certainly not interested in trying to convince someone who refuses to see it. When your words are short, steady, and confident, they can echo far louder than 1,000 explanations. They carry a message that's impossible to ignore. I value myself, and if you can't match that, you won't get more of me. If you're still here watching and finding these insights helpful, please drop a number 4 in the comments so I know you're with me. And if you haven't yet, go ahead and subscribe, then turn on the bell so you won't miss any of our future videos. Your support truly helps us continue creating valuable content that informs and inspires. Now, let's move on to the final point. A circle that reflects your value. The people you choose to spend your time with quietly shape how you see yourself, and just as importantly, how others see you. If you're constantly surrounded by those who interrupt you, dismiss your ideas, or treat your kindness like it's a weakness, that negativity slowly seeps in. You start to second-guess your own voice. Without even realizing it, you might shrink a little, hold back more, or stop speaking up altogether. But here's the good news. The opposite is also true. When you spend more time around people who genuinely respect you, who truly listen when you speak, and who actually care about how you're doing enough to wait for your answer, something shifts. You stand taller. You speak with more confidence. You begin to carry yourself differently, and, almost without effort, you find that disrespect becomes far easier to spot and far harder to tolerate. This isn't about making a dramatic overhaul or cutting everyone out of your life overnight. It's about paying attention. Who leaves you feeling lighter after a conversation? Who makes you feel truly seen, even in comfortable silence? Those are the people who show you what real, healthy connection feels like, and once you've experienced that, it becomes almost impossible to settle for less. I once met a woman named Teresa, 77 years old, who told me she had spent much of her life feeling like she had to earn every ounce of respect, whether it was from her family, her friends, or even her church group. Then one day, she joined a local senior walking club. They didn't care what kind of car I drove or what I used to do for work, she said with a smile. They just liked having me there. That one small welcoming circle changed everything for her. Suddenly, she was surrounded by people who celebrated her presence instead of questioning her worth. They valued her simply for being herself, and that made it easier for her to speak up in spaces where respect was missing. Respect isn't something you chase, it's something you grow from the inside out. You nurture it within yourself first, then build it into the world around you. And once your inner standards and outer environment match, something powerful happens. You naturally stop attracting people who take you for granted. When others see you carry yourself with dignity, when they notice you spending your time with people who treat you well, you send a strong, unmistakable message without ever saying a word. I don't settle. I know my value. And I choose to be around those who recognize it too. The people in your life don't need to be flawless, but they should make you feel safe, respected, and appreciated. If they don't, you have every right to choose differently. You have the right to shape a circle that uplifts you, because, after all you've lived through, you've earned that right 100 times over. Now, let's step back for a moment. By now, you've probably recognized a few patterns in your own life. Moments when you stayed silent even though you wanted to speak. Times when you gave someone chance after chance, hoping they'd finally treat you the way you deserved. That's not weakness, that's hope. But hope, as beautiful as it is, eventually needs to turn into action. And that action begins with you. What stood out to you the most from what we've talked about today? Was it the power of staying calm under pressure? The strength of a boundary held firmly without apology? Or maybe it was simply the reminder that you're allowed to walk away from anyone who doesn't treat you with basic kindness and respect. Each of these ideas is more than just a tactic, they're declarations. Quiet but powerful ways of saying, I matter. I will no longer make myself small just to fit into spaces where I'm not respected. And if you're sitting there thinking, I wish I had known all of this sooner, that's perfectly okay. The best time to speak up for yourself is right now, not yesterday, not last year, but today. You are never too old to set a boundary, never too late to change the people you surround yourself with. You are exactly on time to stand taller, speak with more clarity, and stop wasting energy explaining your worth to people who were never truly listening in the first place. Respect isn't something that just appears. It's built, taught, and reinforced. It's created through your consistency, your clarity, and the way you carry yourself, even when no one else is watching. And every single time you show up for yourself, whether by speaking calmly, stepping back from negativity, or choosing peace over chaos, you are silently teaching others how to treat you. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be loud. What truly matters is believing deep down that you are worth far more than crumbs of kindness. And then proving it to yourself through action, day after day. Because the way you value yourself sets the standard for how the world will value you in return. Thank you for joining us today. I'd love to hear from you. Share in the comments one thing you learned and how you plan to use it in your own life. Your thoughts matter and your voice matters, so don't hesitate to speak up. Reading your comments gives us both motivation and encouragement to keep going. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support allows us to continue creating content designed to inform, inspire, and empower. Wishing you health, happiness, and peace, and remember to subscribe so we can walk this journey together.